Hello and welcome to the first video of the third playlist for assembly. Um, I am, as usual, Anton, and Raj is not here today, so it'll just be me, which is sad, but it's gonna be a pretty simple video today, just a very basic intro to assembly, how it works, and all the little intellectual stuff that you need to realize. So, in a nutshell, assembly is quite literally what it sounds like. It's where you assemble your parts, right? So by now you already know how to create parts inside of your part studio. And now if you have a if you created a mechanism consisting of multiple parts and you want to make those parts connect to each other and possibly even have movement that you can simulate, you are able to do that in assembly. So first, you have to get these parts over into your assembly tab, and even before that, I have to make a assembly tab. So let's make one. And yes, I am back inside of my cookbook holder because it is a pretty simple example. So I just created an assembly tab. Make sure to rename it so I can call it cookbook assembly, right? Again, naming is really important. And now you want to import your parts. There are three general ways of importing parts into an assembly. The first one is by clicking this insert and clicking on current document and either doing part studios or assemblies. So with part studios, you can so if you click on part studios, you can import parts from different part studios. If you click on assemblies, you can import like whole assembly tabs inside of your new assembly tab. So for this case, I want the parts inside of my parts v3 part studio tab. So I'm gonna go over here and I will click on, you just start clicking on parts, right? I'm gonna click on the base, left slide, right slide, and stand. And then after that, before that, now what you can see is you can move the parts around anywhere inside of your UI. And if you left click with your mouse like that, it will place the parts that you imported like where your mouse was clicked. This is not a good practice, I would say. What you want to do instead is you want to click on the parts you are importing, and then you want to press the green check mark right away. This will become very important when actually CADing a robot, and we will dive into that actually later on. So I think I mentioned how you want to CAD stuff as they are assembled. So right now, I imported my parts in my cookbook holder, and you can see that it's already basically assembled inside of my assembly tab, right? Problem is that it's not connected, right? It's just free floating. And this is because if we go back into Part Studio, you can see that I CADed the cookbook holder like I was assembling it, right? This is the exact same state as this right here. So the very first thing you want to do when you've inserted parts inside of your assembly tab is you want to fix something. Like you want to fix a part of your mechanism to make sure that the rest of the mechanism won't move. I'll explain like what I just said later. So fix is, how you do fix is you right click on, for example, this base right here. And then if you see this thing with what it looks like, I don't even know what that is, but it says fix right next to it. So if you left click on that, now if I try to move this base, I am not able to, right? And like this little icon pops up saying that it's fixed. This is because if like a couple minutes ago I told you that when you're importing parts into the assembly, you don't want to move them around with your mouse. Same thing here. So if after you've imported your parts, you don't want to start moving stuff around, right? You want to leave them in that same exact spot that the insert feature inserted them into the assembly tab, right? And to do that, you first have to actually fix it in space, right? And the reason I did this on the base of the cookbook holder is because I am not intending for this base to move, right? So this stand back here is going to be rotating around this pivot point, and then these two slides will be sliding left and right. So I do not want to fix my stand. I do not want to fix any of my slides because they are moving. And fix is probably just fixes things in space and does not let them move at all. So therefore, I will fix the stand. Cool. So that should be the very, very first step of doing anything with your mechanism. You want to fix something that is not intending, that is not going to be moving in space in the same exact orientation that it was inserted in, right? Okay, great. So now what? Well, now you can start mating stuff. But before we get to that, I will show you how to insert things from GoBuilda. There are actually two different ways of doing that. The very first one is pretty simple. You can use the FTC insert tool over here. So if we click on it, and then we go into GoBuilda, and then after it loads, you can now see multiple folders with different hardware and kits inside of it. So for example, if I click on structure and I click on, let's just say beams, I'll let it load. And then let's just say I want whatever this is, right? I want this one, this specific one right here. If I click on it with my left click, it now appears in my assembly tab. So it's pretty cool, right? Okay, and the same rules here apply with isolate and hide, right? If I want to hide the base over here, I just click on it and press Y, right? Again, learn your shortcuts, and here, learn your shortcuts. Let's see, with isolate, Shift I, and now you see that the base is isolated. Cool. Now I will show you how to import from GoBuilda. So first you actually want to go to GoBuilda, right? And let's just say you want to import a motor. So again, I'm on a Mac, so this could be different on Windows. So you go into motors, let's say Yellow Jacket Planetary Gear Motors. And let's just say I want this one, 6,000 RPM. So I click on it. I scroll down to the downloads, and you should see step file. So step file is kind of like one of the standard files that CAD files come into that you can download them. So there's step, there's STL, and those are basically the main two. So if I click on the step file, it's going to download it. There you go, and into a zip file. So I'm doing this on my other desk right now. So you want to open up your zip file, and then it's going to open up a folder. Then you go into that folder, and then here, I'll just show you how it looks like. This is the folder, and then you want to put it onto your desktop, and then now you can delete the zip file and the folder that the zip file opened up. Now let's go back into your Onshape document. There it is. And then what you want to do is you want to go down here to the plus button and then select import. And then on your desktop, you should see the step file, and then you click open. So I would always press this function right here. Just leave these check marks as it is. They don't really matter too much. Then press import, and then you should see inside of your notifications that it's telling you the status of the step file. So when you do this from GoBuilda, it usually takes a while. Not only does it have to upload it, it also has to translate it. Do I know what that means? No, I do not. Does Onshape know what it means? Also probably not, but there you go, importing. And it should appear right down here in one of my tabs. If we give it a second. While it does that, I will show you guys how to import the third way. So the third way is through the SKU of a part from GoBuilda. So if you haven't noticed, there are usually like these numbers with dashes in between them, like kind of like next to a part. So these are basically the identification number of every single part. They're kind of like the label of them, right? because that is a lot easier for Go Builder and also for other people to just organize their parts, right? So the specific ID number, you could call it, of this motor is 5203 dash whatever, blah, 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 right? So if you copy that SKU and then you go back to your document and then you go into insert, and then if you go into other documents, press on home, and then you want to go to public. This is basically every like public documents, right? And then if you paste that SKU into the search bar, press enter, you should see a lot of motors pop up. So it doesn't really matter which ones you press on. You generally want to press on the more nicer ones, meaning the yellow jacket motor in the photo was not blue, nor was it orange. So I would just click on this one, right? And then so if you go to Part Studios and you click on, why is it called Moto, bro? What? And there is your motor, right? So I lied. They're usually in Part Studios. Honestly, they can be in either one, so you just want to check both. But click on the one that has the image of the motor, and then voila, you have your motor. Press the green check mark, and there you go. So by now, the motor that we imported through the step file is in our document here. So I will delete this motor, and I will show you what's going on over here. So how step files usually import is they import in a lot of different tabs. So this is the Part Studio, which is where they made every single tab or every single feature. This looks like to be assembly of the top part of the motor. Then this looks like the assembly of the whole motor. So as you can see, this motor is not as clean as the one that we imported from public. Colors do matter, honestly, in CAD. You want it to be as realistic as possible, but it's the last thing you want to change on the CAD of your robot before, but you want to keep only this tab in here. So what I would do now to get rid of these two tabs and to save some space on my little tab organizer is I would make a folder, call it like motor imports, and then I can just drag these parts inside of motor imports and call it a day, right? Then put this like over here or something. And then what usually happens is parts, imported parts come with a lot of tabs. So to manage with that, you can go into Tab Manager and then click on you can select multiple tabs, right? Just with like one click. So how you do that is you select on the very first one that you want to put into your folder, press and hold Shift, and then press on the very last one, and then it selects everything in between. Don't manually drag stuff into the folder. I did that a couple times. It was very painful. So yeah, that's usually the 3 ways or 4 ways how to import parts. There are also motors in the library. So if you go back into Go Builder, and then you go into Motion, and then Motors, and then Yellow Jacket, and then now you should see a lot of motors you can choose from, and these are actually colored as well, so really nice and really clean. Okay, so moving on to actually fastening mates. We have fixed a part on our mechanism that is not intended to move, and now we will actually want to connect stuff to it and model its movement. You do this through mates. They are up here, usually in this section of the kind of top bar. But the mates that you'll be using most will be definitely fastened, revolute, maybe slider, and then possibly parallel, and then group, definitely group. So one way to reduce how much lag your document has is in the assembly, and that is through the use of the group function. So before we get to that, I will actually just show you how to mate stuff. So let's just say I want to make this rigid to this, right? I just want to connect it. So I press on the fasten mate, right? And I want to think of it as like you're kind of applying glue to the part, right? So if I apply glue, oh yeah, and then this yellow circle with like the three axes kind of pointing down, left, and this way is where you're applying the first drop of glue, right? So let's just say I want to, well, yeah, let's just go here. So I apply the first drop over there, and then I want to connect this part of the leg to this part of the stand, right? So I cannot really do that right now because this rotating thingy, the leg, is in the way. You can easily fix that by just clicking, dragging, and moving it out of the way, and now you have total access to everything inside of here, right? So I want it to be connected on this kind of rotating around this circle, right? Now, does it matter which circle you select? Yes, it does, because if you select this circle instead of this circle, you'll see that the main difference between them is that this circle over here is a kind of further left than that circle, right? So this is probably confusing right now, but trust me, you just need practice with it and you'll get pretty good at it. So let's just say I want to put the second drop of glue over here, and if I click on this edge, you should see that I now have my leg connected to the cookbook holder, to the base. But problem is that there is some phasing going on here. This is what we call on-shape magic. You do not want to have on-shape magic, right? In reality, this is not physically possible. If it is, you should probably call the FBI and report to them that you've somehow found a way to defy the laws of physics. So to fix this, we want to create a different fastened mate, right? So we do not want to apply glue here. We want to apply glue in the center of this circle, right? There are two different ways to do that. One, you can just simply press on the edge over here and it will select the center of the circle. Or two is you select this face, right? You just, actually no, scratch that. You hover over this face with your mouse, press and hold shift, and then now if you move your mouse like kind of off of the part, you should see that you are able to select all of the different locations that Onshape allows you to select for a mate. And these are all of these squares and circles. Yeah. So the squares signify like the midpoints of different segments. So for example, this square is the midpoint of this line. And then the circles signify the corners. And if you see here, there are these circles with like lines going through them down and kind of like that. That signifies that you are selecting the center of that circle. Same with this, like if you look at the middle part over here when a mouse is not there, you should see like a little almost nuclear symbol over there, but instead of yellow and black, it's white and black. That signifies the absolute center of that face, right? Since I'm selecting this face, this is the absolute center. But I want to connect to this circle, so I hover my mouse over to this circle, and then do not make the mistake of connecting it here, because as you see, it is not in the center of that circle. You want to press this mate first for your first glue point. So I left click. Cool. Now you should see like a faint fasten thing over there. And now I want to fasten it to this circle right here. And you just simply, you can do like, again, you can do the same thing where you hover over the face, press and hold shift, move to the center, or you can just select the edge of the circle, which I will do. And then you can press check mark. But if we look from the back, you see that it is not really centered to the part, right? There's a huge gap over here while no gap over here. So let me see how far that gap should be, and I will show you how to offset it. So going back to our part studio and using measuring tool, I see the gap is 0.025 inches. Cool. I go back here, I double click on my fasten mate and check mark offset. Now, we want to offset it this way. What is this way? This way is the Z axis, as you see here by the faint axes. So I go into my Z axis and I do 0.025, but it moved the wrong way, it moved right. How do you do that? You simply put, how do you reverse the direction? You simply put negative 0.025 and press enter and check mark. Cool. that is your first fasten mate, right? Now, problem is that if you have a robot with like thousands, no, not thousands, like hundreds of fasten mates, that will make your assembly really, really slow. So instead of using fasten mates, we can simply use the group tool. So the group is quite literally what it sounds like. It groups parts together and kind of acts like fix, except in a group. So for example, if I group these two slides together, so I just press on them and then I press check mark, just see that if I grab one slide and I move it, the next one, other slide stays in the same exact orientation as it was imported in, right? But what we want to do here is we want to group the leg over here to the base. Nice. So why is group like better than fasten, right? Still one more feature over here, right? Fasten is also one feature. Well, let's just say that you want to fasten these to your base. You will have to then create in total 1, 2, 3 fasten mates. But what you can do instead is you can just simply press on these and that's it, right? They're fastened. So it saves a lot of time, and this is also why it's very important to CAD to create parts inside of your part studio as assembled, because then instead of using 100 of fasten mates, you can just simply use one group feature to connect everything together that is planned to be rigid. Okay, but instead of having this part rotate, I want it to or instead of having this part rigid, I want it to rotate, right? Okay, well, that's pretty simple. You just select the revolute mate, you press on this edge, and you press on this edge, right? And then you see that it's still a z-axis in offset, so you go to offset, you do 0.02, 0.025, wrong way, negative 0.025, check mark, and there you go. Now you have a rotating function, right? Pretty cool. You can also set limits if you want to. It is a bit tedious to work these out. So you just press limit, and then let's just say I do 10, so it's 10 degrees, and maximum is 30 degrees. Now, my part can only do from 10 to 30 degrees, right? To actually get the accurate rotation kind of limits, you'll have to CAD out a bit more and like take a look at your sketches to see which angles you should put in. So I would highly recommend to kind of play around with that. Okay, cool. Then I will cover one more mate, which is the slider mate. Okay, so let's just say I want to make this part slide inside of this valley. So what I do is I press on the slider mate, and the mate connectors here work a bit differently. Honestly, you just have to experiment with each different mate feature to get kind of used to where you have to place the mates. But for this one, you kind of have to place them a bit weirdly, in my opinion, kind of parallel to each other. So if I want to make this part slide inside this valley, I know that this little hump over here will be inside of the valley. So I press on the middle of this bottom line segment, right? Now I rotate my view over here, and I press on the middle line segment inside of this wall in the valley, and then I press check mark. And now you see that it slides, but we have some on-shape magic on the bottom. So let me go into my part studio and figure out how much space I want between them. This is actually where isolate comes in very handy. Or actually no, here, I'll go with that and I'll do that. So it should be about that weird number. Another thing, please do not make your dimensions like 0.6554325, right? Make it nice numbers, meaning 0.65, right? 0.625, 0.3, 0.5, something like that, right? Don't make it 0.59. That's just 0.6 at this point. So I go back into my cookbook. I go into my limit or offset. Okay, so problem here is if I try to offset it in the, let's say, X direction, you see that my whole thing moves that way, right? So it's a bit tedious with the mates. You honestly might have to do some Pythagorean theorem on that to figure it out, but you will rarely use slider mates, I would say. But to get used to all these mates, please just practice them. I don't know, make something in your house that has multiple parts to it and just connect them in the assembly. And yeah, just practice, practice, practice. Okay, so I would say that is it for assembly. Um, Make sure to, again, practice everything, and yeah, see you in the next video.